Hello and welcome back to my channel. It is Abisola here, and you can see that I have a guest in the house, Dr. G. I have Dr. GAna in the house. Please,
Daniel is okay.
Do you want to introduce yourself to the people very briefly? Dr. GAna is a medical doctor and he's a trained psychologist. Yeah, so he's a psychiatrist. And today he's going to be sharing with us some very, very important things about women's well-being and their emotional health, and as well as some tips for the men. So this is for everybody. Everybody needs to listen to this particular video. So I don't even want to introduce yourself quickly.
Well, as you said, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. Thank you for
coming.
And you've been doing great on your channel. So keep the light shining.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So myself, well, everyone calls me Dr. GAna, but I think I just prefer Daniel because I keep saying Dr. GAna shines because of Daniel. Right? So nice. I'm the son of the Most High.
Ooh, hallelujah.
First of all. And then my career, what I do to help people is currently I work as a psychiatrist. Yeah. So people's mental, well-being, and it's been great. I've had opportunity to touch people. Yeah. In different ways. So I can imagine
it is quite rewarding a profession, because I feel like it's one of those things that if I had the opportunity again, I probably would go into like mental health, nursing, or maybe like psychiatry like you. But I mean, it's not too late. Never say never.
Never say never.
Never say never.
But you don't need to, right? I've known you for a few years, and the way you care for people, you're actually doing it already.
Oh,
so probably. You don't need to go back. Don't need to say you're doing great already.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Yeah. Thank you. So, sir, the conversation today really is around women's health, women's well-being, especially their emotional well-being. The difference between a man and a woman, definitely, 100%. There's a clear difference between us as each gender, and each gender has its strengths and each gender has its own weaknesses. And I believe that in God's wisdom, he brought each party together to be able to complement each other so that we can bring the best out of each other.
Yeah.
So today, I feel like one of the things that men sometimes struggle with, and women have their own struggles as well. I feel like men struggle, number one, with understanding women's emotions. And I think women themselves sometimes don't know themselves enough to know what they need.
Thank God I didn't say that.
I think that's one of the reasons why men say that women are so complicated. Because sometimes what is natural to women has been demonized and made to seem as though it is a problem. Yeah. So let's talk practically, sir.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that a man can do immediately, from the get-go? Yeah. Maybe from when they start courting, or even if time has gone by and if you like, I've not been well equipped for this job and I want to start to do better. Yeah. I want to make this woman feel, emotionally, well. Obviously it's not up to you, because women see you just have a role to play, because it's still a woman's responsibility to primarily look after her own well-being. Yeah. But because we know that we are connected, and our marriages, our relationships are one of the most important places that we can feel safe and secure. So how can a man make a woman feel emotionally safe and secure?
Oh, that's a very powerful question. You could have started, with easy one.
Like, just go for it.
You really went for it.
I cannot disappoint.
Yeah, great question. The way I look at it is, first of all, and if you're an empty cup, there's nothing to pour out from.
Yeah.
And what is in the cup is what has been poured into the cup. So if I look back, I feel like men, first of all, we all anyways, but talking about men, first of all, we need to look into ourselves and then see where we are falling short. But it takes a lot of humility for somebody to agree that, look, I am not where I am supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Problem could come from not cool, actually. Most problem is from your association. Right? And if we look at it from the African context, but worldwide as well, a lot of times men are not trained to be husbands. They are trained to be just providers.
Wow.
And then when you look at it as point of being as providing, you don't.
Wow.
it's good to be a provider, right?
Yeah.
But we now restrict the providing to just the monetary terms.
Wow.
So you're supposed to provide emotional support.
Yes.
You're supposed to provide, the first is like looking at it from, you know, our I'll call it our code of practice as Christians.
Yes.
The first support is supposed to be spiritual.
Wow.
Right? So so if we are providers, we're supposed to provide spiritual support, emotional, financial, and everything. But most of the time people are just trained, go out, go get money, and come back home. So I think first of all we need to look at ourselves and say, okay, there's problem here, and there's problem there. And if you find out there's a problem, the best way to get from here to London, if you have not done it before, is to ask somebody. You can check the map, very good. That shows that you're being proactive and intentional. But I think another way to go about that as well is ask someone that's been there. London and back. Say, how did you go there?
You said a lot of great points. We said number one, that it requires humility for a person to begin to identify where the areas and the lapses are. And I think for men sometimes it's a bit difficult. For women, it's kind of easy to say, you know what, well, at least for me and most women that I know, we find it easy to experience vulnerability and talk to each other at that level of like the soul and say, you know what, girl, like, come and see what's happening. I need help here. I need help there. But for men, it's considered weakness to show any signs of emotion. So sometimes even their own lack of awareness of their own emotions then is being projected on the woman herself to then not feel any emotions. Like this, sometimes some are scared. And they don't know what to do with the emotions. And it like overwhelms and they just want to run away and go and hide in.
Please,
how do I help this girl here? So what do you think can then foster that, you know, humility of heart to see, okay, I don't know how to, because if you don't even acknowledge in the first instance, and I think because emotional connection is really where we have different levels of connection, spiritually, physically, emotionally, financially. We are connected on all wise. But I feel like when a person gets your soul as well alongside your spirit, it's important, you know, when the soul is able to experience that union together at that level where you feel like this person, they know me, they are like my person, I have them, they have me, you know, that emotional bond is there, that if I'm experiencing something, I can come and share with them vulnerably without fear of dismissal, without any form of lack of safety and trust created in that environment. I know for women, I think that's why we have that's why we like to have like our girlfriends and all of that kind of thing. I can talk. And so what do you think that can help men to begin to step up their game in terms of their own emotional awareness, their own emotional intelligence, their own, you know, language? How can you help us give language to some of these things that we experience and we want to just do better, basically?
Wow. Okay. I think one way we can look at it is something I always say is that women are more sophisticated than men, right? And if we look at it from the Bible, I'll say it. Women were created after God saw that man wasn't good. Like God had finished everything. I now said, it's not good for this person to be alone.
I'm blushing on behalf of what you said.
So it's not good for this person. So if I've been factual, men will have been roaming around. I mean, we'll have found other ways of creating other people, but will not have had the pleasure of having new people in our lives. But God looked at us and in his mercy, had mercy on us, on men, you know, and said, let's create a woman. So first of all, women are more sophisticated. And one of my saying is that iPhone 16 Pro Max is better than iPhone 4.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So if women were made after, I believe that they had, and that's why we don't even we can't carry babies, because God looked and said, okay. So even your emotions, your wiring will be more sophisticated than ours, right? So it's a two-way thing.
That's a deep revelation. Get to it again, like
So it's a two-way thing, right? Sometimes because of how equipped a woman is, she feels like this man should be on this level, right? It's not that the man can't be there, but when we help each other. So I think a little bit of grace from the woman's side as well might be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because a lot of men compare them to be, good analogy, but let's say crayfish.
Right.
Like, you know, a crayfish is dried, like prawn that is crispy.
Yeah.
It's still crayfish.
Dried prawn.
But if you soak it in water, it's not going to get back to its normal.
No.
But you can actually make it into something. You can grind it and mold it into something else. What is inside is still there. You can make it into a different shape.
I love it.
But it takes time.
Yeah.
You know, so a bit of patience from the side of the woman when you're expecting your husband to transition from who they are to who you actually see them to be.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it happens with the man as well. He's supposed to do that. Now, but for the men themselves, they need to, I think, because of our wiring, sometimes we just find it difficult. And the training, as I said earlier on, what we've been hearing, you'd be like, I can handle it. Exactly.
Why don't show emotions?
And I said, why did God give you tear ducts as a man?
Maybe men should have not had tear ducts.
If you are not supposed to cry, you will not have it. Cry. And your wife is supposed to be your safe. Your wife should be able to see you cry, right? But now, if your husband is not crying with you at any point, then you need to look and say, I have not created that safety space for him. So if anything is happening, he should be able to come back home and put his head on your laps and cry. And when you don't even need to say anything, you might just wipe his tears and he's fine. And the next day he's match you outside. But you know that you hold him. But the men need to be able to come down to that point of realizing that, look, I mean, we're just human.
Yeah, we're human. And I think as well, I think the point you made initially about women being more sophisticated in terms of their emotional wiring, I think that's a very important point to note. With that as well, if the man acknowledges and realizes that I actually have a superpower in my house, like I am blessed with this gift, they'll probably harness it more rather than undermine the gift and the graces that come with being a woman. Because you know, women naturally, they're very intuitive. They can perceive people and perceive situations, easily discerning, and you know, it comes naturally to a woman. When a man is still going like, you know, but a woman has probably picked some things up more naturally. And this thing, as I would say, like even in recent times, I'll tell my husband, this thing is going on, and my husband like, no, that you're just overthinking things, that is nothing, is my husband
same with my
plain
wife.
and simple. But me, I'm like, you will see, give this in time, it will show. And indeed,
it will.
Indeed, like,
you're right.
you know, and he then realizes and he sees that there's probably something there that I'm able to discern. And I think as well, I've had to grow in my own confidence as well, because naturally, you know, as a woman, you are mostly socialized to defer to the man and not necessarily say what you think or, you know, share and all of those kind of things. So I've had to as well grow in my confidence of trusting in my own instinct and you know, really owning what I have, you know, because what's the point if God gives you these gifts but one person does not believe in it, and you yourself, you don't now believe in it, so it becomes
2-0.
Exactly. You're not able to actually add any value to that man and or to your marriage or to your home. So I think as well, to my ladies watching, is that you have to also begin to, you know, we don't have suspicion or like just suspecting people unnecessarily because there's some that do that, but we have that intuition. So to begin to trust your own voice, your own, you know, that navigational system that God has given you.
When you talked about people being suspicious, for me, it doesn't even matter, right? One thing I believe is that a marriage or a couple is a team, and anything that you do that is going to affect the team should not be done, right? So if your wife comes and she's suspecting something, right, you're a team. It might be wrong, it might be bad, but you should calm down and say, if you look at it plainly, nobody, it doesn't always work like this. In the ideal world, I shouldn't make any decision that would affect my wife, and my wife shouldn't make any decision, even though it's going to be the best, but might not be best for the team. You know, so if she's suspecting something, it's valid. You know, I know you're saying some people overdo it quite all right, but I think it's also about
knowing that it's for our safety, and that agreement as well, that's safety. And that's what I was saying about just creating an environment that is safe, especially for women. So I want us to go into another angle, and this angle is more around, you know, again, it's about emotional well-being for men and women alike, but specifically in the area of some men struggle with detaching themselves from people and prioritizing their wife as number one. I've heard of things where, some men, for instance, struggle with having their loyalties to their wife as opposed to their mother. Some men struggle with having their loyalties to their wife as opposed to what there's a female in their life that thinks, and then they somehow don't recognize that this person has become this, especially has become a problem to my wife. She's not comfortable. There's a mom that is speaking, maybe, I mean these things happen. A mother-in-law that is speaking ill about your wife to you, and sometimes to the woman's face. And some men sit down and take it. Or better, or somehow there's a woman in that man's life, and that woman is speaking ill about that man, speaking ill to you as a husband about your wife, and you're sitting down and listening and tolerating it.
Yeah.
These are issues that you're laughing, sir.
You don't want to know why I'm laughing. Are you sure? So the other day I was reading, when you talked about mother-in-law and stuff, I can't remember where, I think it was Matthew 4 or something in the Bible. And I told my wife, I was like, can you see this place? I said, do you know that Jesus Christ said that mother-in-law and daughter-in-law will have issues? He never said anything about father-in-law and son-in-law. So that's why there's only, it's Jesus Christ that said it. So if you want to solve the problem, you have to go to the person. That's why he said that, But yeah, I think you need to detach. Right? Like for me, if someone is speaking ill of my wife to me, I'll just look at the person and I don't care what the person is saying. If you say my wife is bad, I like my bad. I mean, sure is my bad. Well, mind your business now. But some people don't get to the point where they can
detach themselves. Because the problem is that if someone is speaking ill about your wife to you, and or that person is being nasty towards your wife, and you continually create an environment where they feel like they can do that.
No.
Do you understand what I mean? When you create an environment where you feel like that's welcome, we'll take it. Just take it to my wife. When they go, I'll rub your shoulder, but you have to take it. Like that level of, is it unawareness about how that woman will be thinking about herself? How those words are creating emotions in that woman's soul that is going to go and produce thoughts that will birth things that will now begin to manifest in her health and in her well-being and how she perceives herself, how she goes about life. It knocks who she is and begins to make her question her destiny and question everything about her life if she does not have the tool yet to deal with those kind of people in her life.
I think I'll go with the man first of all. There are more, but talk about providing. There are 3 P's I talk about men. One is provide, one is protect, and one is preside. So you preside over things in your house. You protect your house, which is your wife is your house, and you provide as well. When somebody is saying rubbish about your partner or your wife, you need to protect her.
Absolutely.
She doesn't even, you might not even need to tell her what the person said. Just keep it to yourself and leave the person to go. Because as you said, now if the person hears, like if your wife hears or you start thinking, is my husband actually believing this? And then you yourself, what type of track record have you set in the past? Because if you're somebody that has always believed what people say,
other people say about
then even when you now start changing, that fear is in her. This man doesn't trust me. And then when there is no trust, the foundation becomes very, very rocky. And then she starts thinking about, what do I do? What can I do? What is happening? What is not happening? Is this man on my side? And I think for a lady
is this man on my side?
Feel that your husband is not on your side. It is like
it's really, really like
I'm
it's
looking for
very,
the word
like it makes you feel insecure. Like this
like
is
all safety is gone.
It feels that way. Like all the spaces are gone. Like why would the person that roles were reversed? I thought nobody can come and tell me anything. You cannot. You cannot.
It shouldn't happen. But some people have strong heads, sorry
Yeah.
to say. They don't respect boundaries.
Yeah.
So now that you're talking about this, I think that's the other thing. And there's something my wife actually tells me about. Because I've learned I've learned a lot from my wife, and a lot of men would not want to admit that. But
I actually heard Brother be saying this as well when he was doing an interview with Mommy
Oh
Pastor.
yeah.
He said
I've
that.
learned a lot from her, and you know, setting boundaries is very, very important. My wife says what you allow is what you get. So first of all, for somebody to come and meet me to say rubbish about my wife is because I've permitted it before.
Yes.
Right. So if you set good boundaries, nobody will cross it. And if the person cross it, you tell the person, guy, move away.
Not allowed here.
It's not allowed here. You know. So men have to be firm. You have to, as I said, you have to know that you're protecting as well.
Yes.
It's not just providing. You're protecting, you're providing, and you're presiding over a lot of.
So good. And that's that covering, really, because that's one of the roles of a man. You're meant to cover and protect and do that job of, you know, if there's anything that seems to me as though, I mean, and naturally, it's the protection is always looked at in terms of like physical environment, the house. But you also have to protect that woman's emotional well-being. Anything that you can perceive, people, words, or environments that you think are actually hostile against that woman's soul, you stand against it and you prevent that from actually taking her over.
100%.
So I really love that you just shared about you know, protecting,
and spiritually as well.
Yes.
That's spiritual protection.
Very important because sometimes as well is that I've heard stories of people like that are pastors, and then you know, pastors would have you know, pastors are obviously highly revered in the church and all of that, and then there'll be the pastor's wife, and people don't have grace for the pastor's wife. I was still hearing Pastor Miriam say something about how people are always like, you know, they defer to the pastor, they are this, and then they just kind of like tolerate they tolerate the wife. And
oh my goodness.
She was saying about if these people knew the level, like how much of her it's just that she's not the one that does the majority of this thing, but the work and all of that is on her, and she wasn't saying it for just public acclaim or anything. She was saying it because she was talking about to pastors' wives and things like that, and how supporting them is such an important thing to do.
If the camp is on fire, how can the captain go and fight the war?
How?
So the woman, if the house is on fire, the man will be difficult. You can't. How can you go on the stage? You cannot. So
I
truly play a lot of role,
a huge role.
You know, backstage. And what happens backstage? Like there's something I learned recently, that a battle is not won in the battlefield.
No.
So it's because everything at home, behind the scene, the training, the support is all top notch. That's why you can go out. And that brings me to the other thing you talked about, which was the emotion. If you're living gap, then you should not be able to provide all of that you need. The gap can be in any way. It can be in the way you connect with her, the way you talk to her. So women, something like, let me tell you something, personal experience. You're like, it's not confession, and it's what I've learned over time. Sometimes my wife likes gisting with me, but sometimes I'm tired, and I used to like telling her, just cut to the
go to the point.
But I realized that
my husband does that as well.
It's just all about listening. You don't need to say yes, no. Just listen. Be there. You know, sometimes I might be doing something, even though it's not serious. I'm listening. I'll still ask her questions about, so she knows that I'm listening. So you mean this? Okay. So she knows that I'm following.
Top tip.
You understand? Because that's all. Say a woman is not that complicated, right? You may be sophisticated, but it's easy.
Sophisticated, not complicated. I love it. I love it.
You're sophisticated, but it's not a complicated. You know, it's not like you're losing a. No. It's not like you're going to a computer to scatter things that you don't. No. Sometimes what you just need is, as I said, to be there, to have a conversation, to go out for a walk, or just hold her hand. Do something together. When she's in the kitchen, go and stand there and gist with her for 2-3 minutes. Well, you cannot threaten me with that one. You can wash the plate, you can cook, thank God. But that is very important. Actually, don't leave everything for her. You know, go in, cook, and all that support actually makes it easier for you to go out to be the champion. That you need to be.
So good.
And then the glory at the end of the day is for the team. If I go out and I become something great, the glory falls over to her, and all of that affects her emotions. So no matter how simple your wife appears, she also needs some level of I'll not call it status, right? But she needs to be able to stand with her shoulders high.
Absolutely.
No matter, it's not about driving massive cars or living in a you know, it can be simple, but there's a level of confidence that gives to her, and it affects her mental, you know, her emotions, her everything, and everywhere will just be good.
So good.
Even the other room.
So I'm gonna just face my front. So can I just also can we just also talk a little bit about what you talked there about helping the woman and not leaving all things to her? Because I feel like one of the other challenges I find is there are some men that are not kind, and they're just, because I don't know how you can say you are a man that cares for a woman and you see the responsibilities she shoulders, because primarily the role of the woman is seen more as the nurturer, the home, the one that does the thing of the home. And for those of us that are here in the UK that find ourselves without the immediate family support or immediate help that we would have, where in Nigeria you would have possibly you'd have maybe 3 helps safe in one house,
you know,
that kind of thing. And the challenge sometimes is that some men, in the bid to stand on their ground of I'm a provider or I'm a this, I'm a that, and the role and the gender divide comes in, and women begin to take on a lot of responsibilities that makes them resentful towards their spouses. It builds up emotions that are painful, that cannot even be spoken about, because if they speak, like, I'm the head of the home, I'm not doing it and I'm not doing it, nobody can tell me anything. Do you know that kind of thing?
I don't think a true head will say that. So one thing I know is that leadership, okay, the man is the leader, right? Leadership is example, right? You cannot tell your wife to do what you're not doing. And if you're doing that, then you've been doing it wrong.
Wow.
Seriously.
So I think you should say it again. Just let's say it again.
So if you're doing so, if you're telling your wife to do what you're not doing or what you can't do, then you should check yourself, right? For example, you say that I'm looking at it for those that are in diaspora, and they're now saying that your wife needs to cook for. That's fine. Your wife can cook for you, but make sure that you're giving her all the money she needs to do all the cooking, and she shouldn't be working. Yes,
she should sit down now and be doing.
Otherwise, if she's working full time like you and you're expecting her to cook, then you to cook. Whosoever enters the house first should cook.
Wow.
Let me tell you something I've learned over time. Personal story, and I've told that to a few people. There are sometimes I'll come back home. My wife works as well, but there are some days she will not work. She might be tired. The kids are there. So then I'll come back home and I'll be like, oh, I've been working since morning and this woman, you didn't do the dishes. And one day, the Holy Spirit just laid it on my mind that, do you think that she'll leave the... Why are you getting angry? Do you think she left the dishes there to make you angry? Does she struggle to wash the dishes normally?
Think about it.
You understand? So sometimes I come back home and I see it and I just do it myself. Because you should be able to, if you don't even trust your wife to the extent that if she doesn't do something, she's not doing it to hurt you and you have problem. I'm sorry to say. Because under normal circumstances, you'll not do something. I'll leave the place. I'll leave dirty here. I'll not sweep this so that.
Why?
Did you marry a baby?
Or did you marry a demon?
You know. So you should be. For me, if I had all the money, not if, when I have all the money, my wife is not going to work. Why should she work? You know, she should be able to relax and then
be taken care of. Rubbing coconut oil
in Hawaii. Rubbing coconut oil, sipping coconut. You know? But that's how it should be. So you cannot demand that your wife does all of that, because the situation, the environment is different. So she learn how to, you know, do what she's doing. You might need to do the cooking.
Yeah.
You might help with the cleaning.
Yeah.
You can.
You might have to just learn it as well, because it may not be natural. Because I feel like, me personally, growing up, I remember we used to have this thing in my house where my dad would say the girls do this and the boys do that in the house. So the boys are not in the kitchen. Maybe they wash the car and do those kind of tasks. Yeah. So it wasn't. It probably not come naturally to them. So, but I think the most important thing is just to have at least a mindset where, if you are kind, and that's what I was saying about kindness. That if you are kind and you cannot put that societal pressure on a woman that says that she's the one that is the mother of the house and she does everything. If anything, it's our home. How do we help our own? Yeah. How do we help ourselves? Not how do I help the woman? You know, it's not I'm helping her. It's that we're helping ourselves. Yeah. We're building our home. We're raising our children.
Exactly. And to add to that, if we're looking at it from the perspective, I know a lot of people stumble on this that they don't have a spiritual background. Let me use that. But if whether you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're atheist, what I believe is that everybody has, if you don't believe in God, you have a supernatural force in you. Yeah. Right? That's the way I see it. So for those that are believers and we believe that we have the Spirit of God in us, right? Yeah. How can you say that there's something you cannot do? So that means that the God in you is incompetent or so you're telling God I cannot, like, it doesn't. I didn't learn how to wash dish in my mother's house. So you mean God cannot help you to wash dish? You understand? Yes, sir. So we have the Spirit of God in us, and I don't accept from anybody I cannot. Excuse, God forbid. Yeah. If there is a war and they say everyone that is 50 and under should come out and carry weapons, right? You cannot say that I wasn't in the military. You will learn how to shoot. Yeah. If not, you'll be shot. So all those things are just excuses. And you know what? No one rises from excuse. If you're saying I cannot do it, giving excuse, you're going to remain there. Yeah. Yeah. And God doesn't like.
And I think if you look at what it is doing to your family, is it worth it? You know, if truly Christ died for our sins, and you are meant to be the man that is, you know, the head that is like Christ, to love his wife like Christ loved the church, how would you die to your own personal preference and you know, begin to embody what is actually needed to save and rescue your family, to create an atmosphere where everybody can thrive without anybody you know, suffering at the expense of another person in that light. So that's so powerful, sir. So powerful.
And quickly, another thing is that we forget that whosoever God puts in your life or in your way is to actually make you better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your wife is not there to, in the beginning, to be rubbing coconut oil on your head and giving you foot massage.
That's a good thing, though. A wife that will take care of me.
No. Your wife, you as you train your wife, she trains you as well.
Yeah.
Right. So even your kids, God gives you kids that will polish you. Yeah. Nobody has anything smooth. There's nothing that if they said the rough smooth seas don't make great sailors, and that's what happens even with your home. So if you begin to see your wife and everything that you see in her that is not right and is giving you problem, look at yourself. Those are the things you're supposed to solve.
Okay. While we're on that, how can you then see weaknesses and help with them without breaking a person? Because another element is when someone is so critical and they're very, you know, the words they use they break your soul, and they just make you feel like, you know what, I don't think I can ever do this thing anyway. Yeah. So I'll just probably roll over and continue in it. Yeah. So how can for both parties now, because it's both to men and both to women. So the women that even maybe have men that are struggling with such and such, and you know, and you as well as a man identifying those weaknesses. Yeah. How do you not use your words to? Because men are naturally prone, they find it easy to talk and be confrontational with things somehow.
Just don't be nice. So we talk anyhow. Is that
I was just trying to use you. You know why? This is how British people talk. They'll be insulting you, but they'll be very nice about it.
I'm afraid.
But that's actually what I was saying. I mean it because men are more like prone to just, if they see something, they want to maybe talk about it. They don't think about, okay, how would this make this person feel when I say it, and how would they take it, and all of those kind of things. So there's that, and there's a part as well that we as women, sometimes when we also see things, sometimes we don't want to talk about it because we're like, I don't want to you know, we're sometimes maybe trying not to be as direct. I know some women are more masculine and they go full on and just go directly. So how can we then strengthen each other's weaknesses without breaking each other's spirits?
I think something that we are not really trained in is communication skills.
Yes, you're right.
And communication skills are very important. It's a skill you need to learn in life.
Yes, sir.
And it starts from home.
Yeah.
And I think if you tell somebody something that breaks that person down, then you're not willing to help the person. Because the first thing when you're telling something to somebody, the aim is to get that person better.
Yes, that's what scripture says.
Yeah.
That whatever things you say, like you say that let every word be with grace.
Yeah,
grace. And grace is really the enablement to become what they could not be without that word you are speaking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we know that, then we'll watch how we do it. And the thing is that we just have to get to a point that say, okay, I don't know. How do I know? You have to increase knowledge, like know how to talk, know how to communicate your point without being rude.
And I think the challenge is that we always think that we cannot bring things up until we're like pent up with anger and we're here. I think that's where the challenge is. If we can learn to actually communicate, like not with emotions, but with intention and purpose, knowing that my words are going to be with grace. My words are actually to bring this person into something that they probably could not have become without me ministering that word to them. We will look at it as a ministry rather than as a this person, I'm tired of it, I've had enough, I've done this. If that's the attitude we're going to just always blow up, blow a fuse and scatter things on want to talk, as opposed to if we see that, okay, how do I approach this thing? I love this person. You know, you are praying about it. You maybe still be angry, but you're just going over it, and then you find an opportune time. An opportune time to speak, but not a one that you have been bottling it up. You're bottling it up, or you're just like, it touch you, you're angry, you fire. You know, it's action. Yeah, some people like this as he's doing them. What's that? It's just. But if you realize what you are building and what you are nurturing in the kind of atmosphere you are creating in your home and in your life, you realize that we need to have conversations that are true, that are direct and straight to the point.
100%.
But we're going to do it in a way that honors everybody and makes everybody feel, better equipped to do better, rather than just pulling them down for the sake of that you've seen.
Exactly. And if you look at it, one thing I say is that if somebody offends you, right, you start with yourself actually. So the question is, why did you get angry? I think you deal with yourself first of all before you can deal with someone. So if there's an issue, if something goes wrong, the first way to start is to first of all check that you have not contributed to that problem. A lot of people don't do that. And they just fire back. And then you end up bringing somebody down. I think if you look at it critically, you should be able to communicate to that person as you would want the person to be, and not as the person is.
That's right. That's
so
right.
If I see my wife as the queen that she is, as with all the glory and splendor and everything,
celebrating grace, man.
Then I shouldn't be able to just talk to her anyhow. Because if God sees us as we are, let's not go there.
So good.
You understand?
So good. So like Christ did, the Bible says that Christ is, washing the woman with the water of the word and all of that, and is, transforming her, is activating her, basically. So I think in the same manner, if men have the same approach, and women as well have the same approach to their own responsibility and role to one another, it would help us to see each other in the light of Christ, and whatever is there is to just remove them, so that true person that you see can come out. It's so good.
And if you don't do that, then you can't blame anyone. Basically, that's
so good. That's really good. A few more things. I have so many more questions to ask, but it's just I know that time is running along.
Oh, all right.
I might need to wrap the video up soon. But I was thinking as well, how do you create an emotionally stable environment for your children? Because I know there was a study about adverse childhood experiences and some of the things that causes, high cortisol in children level, that eventually later on in life, when they experience some kind of environment, it leads to them experiencing those emotions and not having
strongly.
a filter for not having a strong, life coping mechanism for events. So how do we also not just create a, I saw someone post something the other day about how if you don't heal for any reason, heal for your children, don't continue the trauma or the cycle that you experienced. How can we create that environment for our children, for the next generation, to at least have a higher level of better life, a higher quality of life than what we had, and help them go on to do great things in life?
So that's a very deep question. I think still goes back to you. We need to take the stand and say what has been happening in past years. Like you can't blame your ancestors. What they have done, they've done it. You stand now and say this cannot.
Enough is enough.
And change the course for your family. Now there's no matter how good your background was, your upbringing, there's no way nobody has a perfect upbringing, and we always have one thing or the other that we need to work on. A lot of people don't sit down to reflect, to think back, because life is not about you. It's about the people around you, starting with your family. Now, if you're not stable, you're going to create unstable children. So it goes down to, and that's why I said by talking about leadership by example. If you know you're a leader, then you now start seeing that the way I do things at home, the way I talk, the way I respond, my kids do something and I'm screaming all over. I used to be guilty of that. Seriously, I'm not going to lie. Like sometimes I still scream, but maybe before I used to scream over 10. Maybe I used to scream
maybe like 9.
Which kind 9? 18 point something. Now I'm on that 9, and I'm by God's grace will keep
decibels are coming down.
And that's what creates this stability. There was a day I didn't even know it was my wife that was telling me that my daughter came and she was telling my mom that she's my wife, that she has never seen us fighting before.
Wow.
And it didn't even cross my mind.
Wow.
And those are the type of things.
That's beauty there.
So I didn't plan it, right? It was God. Because it's sweet to fight sometimes. No, it's not good, but conflict is good. Let's jokes apart. If conflict is handled rightly,
yes.
Growth comes from conflict.
Which is what we talked about.
So everyone needs to take a stand at some point and say all the, permit my own language, all the rubbish that has been coming ends with me. And I'm going to birth a new thing for my family.
I agree.
I keep telling my son that I am sure I'm better than grandpa, and I need you to be better than me. And when we have that mindset, then we have to start showing them how to do things in a better way. So including how we respond. We are trained, like I was having a chat with my wife, we are all trained about perfection. And if you make a mistake, it's why did you do that? Why did you do that? We can change that to, how could you have done that differently? Change the mindset instead of shouting and shouting and shouting. So all of that helps. Because if they now go out and something happens,
they're scared, panicking or worried. They don't feel like a safe place.
Then you start saying, what happened? You say, Daddy, I have anxiety from work.
Why?
You give your daughter anxiety. You give your son anxiety. Not you. As in the use for someone. The use for someone else. Third person, not second. So it's all about putting a lot of things in place by yourself. Consciousness, intentionality, that it all, something new is coming from me, a new legacy. I love my parents. They've done great for me, and I'm doing greater for my kids.
Greater works. Absolutely. I heard a quote that someone said that one of the best things you can do for your children is actually to love your wife and to care for her, and there's something healing about it. And the same thing for the woman, that the woman herself as well, nurtures her home, and she demonstrates that partnership with her husband where they're able to do something together. So I think just as an addendum to that as well is, I feel like one of the things you can do as well to raise those children well is to love your wife and love her well. You know, create an environment that is enabling for her, because you may think that, and I see this thing happen to a lot, like in Ilua, even if my husband and I are just like playing and he's like, I'm going to leave you, I'm going now, I'm doing this, my son will not follow his dad. He will come and stand beside me and say, is daddy leaving you? You know, he feels it so like strongly because he wants to protect me, and instinctively he wants to come to my rescue. So like, even as men, like, just to know that loving the way you love your wife is actually healthy for your children to see that it's very safe, it's very sound for them to see you present, and you know, covering, like defending, all of those good things we talked about. It goes a long way in creating a safe environment for your children as well to grow up in. Okay, so I don't know if you have any final thoughts. I feel like we've talked really, really deeply today.
We have.
In a short space of time, and the conversation has been so nourishing. I feel like I feel so refreshed even listening and being a part of this conversation myself. And thank you so much for being a blessing. But I don't know if there's any like concluding thoughts you want to share with men and women alike. Say something to the men and say something to the women.
Just combine it. I guess for one of the things that we all need for success is knowing where we are going. And just like the Bible says that you should write your vision down, you know, make it plain. It's unwise for one person to have a vision and the other person not know. So if both come together, so even, I mean, I wish I knew this long ago, but even before you come together, you need to sit down and write clearly where you're both going. And as you start the journey, it becomes easier. Then nobody is coming and saying, I want to do this, I want to do that. You know where you're going. And if that course has to change, then there'll be a board meeting. You know, you can discuss a lot of things. How you want to raise your kids. Okay, we don't want to shout at our kids. We don't want to spank our kids. Okay, I was brought up in a spanking environment. What can I put in place to change my mindset? And then you start growing yourself. So I guess it's all about, if that has not been done, just sit down with your partner and know where you're going, because that defines a lot of things that happen. It helps you set boundaries. Because if I know that me and my wife, we are going in one direction, somebody comes and says something, the boundary, we know the person is just wasting their time.
It doesn't matter.
And if you're struggling, look for somebody that's done what you want to do. That's the easiest way to get from point A to B.
That's so good.
Ask questions, you know, read books. You know, there's this book, 5 Love Languages. Very great book. A lot of books on communication. There's nothing that is wasted that you put in to make the family better.
So good, so powerful. I know we're done with the video now, but I just thought about something you said there, and this is some, like, just observing yourself and Sister Lucy, who is your wife, for those that don't know. I think, you know, Sister Lucy has done so much in like I feel like one of the things that I see and I observe is she's able to chase her dreams even as you're doing your things as well. There's no one person, I mean, obviously per season, obviously we give it to each other so we can balance the home and all of that, but it's not a full stop that one person is not allowed to become the dreams in their heart at the expense of the other person that wants to just be there, let them do everything and that kind of thing. So no. In fact, as a man, as a leader, leadership, that doesn't mean you have to be on the head. Leadership also requires you to be able to identify the strengths of the other person. So you can say that I'm not good at, it can be even, let's say, managing money, or it can be, a lot of men will see that as ego, but ego is from the pit of hell. You just have to calm down. It's good to have a bit of it, but it has to be controlled. You know? And I think if we're all submitted to the Holy Spirit, the same way a woman has to submit her emotions to God, and allow the Holy Spirit to not, so that she's not always driven by emotions, even though there's a gift from God. It's the same way that a man cannot allow his ego to just be riding and taking the field day, you know, and doing things when that ego must actually be submitted to. So you are saying that your ego is better than the Holy Spirit on your inside?
God forbid. One of my mentors said something a while ago, and he was like, you either feed your ego or feed your family.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see, so that's how bad it can be.
Yeah.
You know, so you just have to cut it down on time.
Yeah.
And if your wife is the one on top, let her shine.
Yeah.
It's a team.
Yeah.
If one person shines, everybody shines.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
That's it from me.
So wholesome. So wholesome. I feel like this conversation is so wholesome. It's so like it feels so safe. This is the kind of, honestly, this is the kind of conversation that we need to have with men about women, and men as well, about themselves and understand themselves. It feels so beautiful. Thank you so much for coming.
No worries.
God bless you.
Amen. And my secretary will send it.
Until next time, people of God, thank you so much for watching this video. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.